Welcome, everybody. This is the UMP, short for the Universal Mindset Podcast. Thank you all for joining me on this journey of leadership. It has been a great one thus far. This is part 4, and we're moving right along in the excellent 8-part series. As always, I'm your host, Chris Matthews. I would like to announce that this is the Universal Mindset Podcast's 7th episode altogether, being the 4th of season number 2. It is stated that most beginning podcasters don't make it to their 7th episode due to a number of reasons, but despite a small crowd and a number of likes, the UMP will continue to push forward and grow in due time with great patience. On September 23rd, we started a followers contest. If you were our 10th follower, you would win $10 all the way up to our 50th follower winning $50. I'd like to announce that Brandon Luckett is our $10 winner. Brandon, we appreciate you being a part of our growth, success, and hope that you are receiving knowledge and that you can apply it to your life and others as well. So be sure to contact the UMP via Messenger on the fan page, to claim your $10 prize. Want to be able to win that $20? Be our 20th follower and you will receive just that. Also, do not forget that you can win one of 3 gift cards as well. If you refer someone you know to follow and listen to the UMP podcast, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell via YouTube, and you will win one of those 3 gift cards. Call or text us when we are live via Facebook on the fan page. The number to do so is 702-425-3319. Again, that number is 702-425-3319, guys. Be sure to save that in your cell phones under the UMP. You can also email us for any inquiries at the UMP2019@gmail.com. Today's episode is about our responsibility coming from our proximity to and empathy for others, without which we can cause great harm. Being in a leadership role doesn't necessarily mean you are a force of good. When the bond between the leaders and the team is somehow severed, the consequences can be very horrific. In essence, this is because responsibility is actually about caring for the other people. When we're removed from the people for whom we are responsible, we're less cautious about the damage we cause. When I first moved to Phoenix, I used to work for a plumbing wholesaling warehouse called Farnsworth Wholesale Company. It started well, as all jobs do, but of course it began to go downhill. In the interview process, the operations manager asked me what it was I was looking for. He said, "I'm not going to ask you where you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now. I just want to know where you're looking for now." I explained to him, job-wise, I'm looking for stability and a place that maintains an excellency of leadership. There's too much management with no leadership and no respect, and that's the downfall of these jobs. If that can't be shown and given, this would not be ideal for someone like myself. Now, I knew he would fill my ears with a choir from heaven about how they are all about leadership and growth and development, which is what he did. I listened, but I was too broke yet rich with discernment per se to buy what it was he was offering. At the time, I was in need of money to take care of my family, being that I had just recovered from a hand surgery, so I ended up accepting the offer of employment. But not long afterwards, I ended up quitting because, as expected, all they cared about was pursuing orders for the customers. Now, we all know that that's a main importance of a job, but guys, I am huge on leadership within companies. It just honestly moves my energy in the wrong way when companies lack leadership. At one point working with this company, I sort of had a moment of crashing. I just felt so angry at this particular moment and I just wanted to cry, scream, and just run out of there. I ended up actually calling my mother because I needed to hear some words of wisdom, or else I was just going to completely lose it. Eventually, I was able to calm down and gather myself, but even afterwards, the job still became worse. I was talked to disrespectfully, like I didn't even matter, or like I wasn't even a grown man for that matter. Whenever I had an issue with something job related, no one was around to help me out, or either they just didn't care to help, which put me in a position to not care about the job either. The downfall with that was if they later on wondered why something didn't get received properly, being that I worked in receiving, I would be the one in trouble. I'd simply have to let them know that I was put in a position to not care, being that the so-called leaders didn't care. Would that have saved my job? More than likely not. After so long, I had to go ahead and beat them to the punch like I mentioned in episode 2 on leadership. I found another job before leaving, and when that came through, I put in my notice. So our feeling of responsibility comes from our empathy, the ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Without empathy, we risk becoming emotionally removed from decisions that affect others. And if we add physical distance to the mix, it leads to abstraction, where the consequences of our actions seem less real than they otherwise would. In that job, those managers didn't at all try to put themselves in anyone's shoes. They only cared about themselves and their jobs. Even the salespeople were so negative. The music they even played on the overhead speaker was just so vulgar, and it just kept this low frequency of energy flowing throughout that place. And I just needed a major deliverance. As far as a physical distance, when it came to the leadership, it was a high percentage rate of distance with the operations manager. I would try to come to him for certain issues, and he wouldn't even look at me. He would speak under his breath and just walk the opposite way because he was so busy and invested with his work only. It was so bad that I had to go to his boss, and only after I did that did I get the attention that was needed. By then, it was too late. I had already made my decision. My empathy for others in a job has always led to either me leaving or a termination, and for some people, it happens like that. That's how I knew it was time for me to start investing within myself. We see evidence of abstraction in the Milgram experiment in the book Leaders Eat Last, in which one group of volunteers called teachers were told to push buttons that would inflict electric shock of increasing intensity, from a mild sting to a potentially lethal jolt, on other participants called learners. Unbeknownst to the teachers, the learners were all actors who weren't actually being shocked. While many participants expressed great discomfort at inflicting apparent harm onto learners, Milgram found that the less proximity a teacher had to a learner, the more likely they were to continue the experiment. In fact, more than half the participants of one particular group who could neither see nor hear the writhing and screams of agony from the learners eventually administered what would have been deadly voltage. When abstraction occurs, we begin to prioritize our interests over other people's, which can lead us to actively making decisions at others' expense. Prime example, people in high places of the jobs that determine people's fate with the company, so to speak, by only looking at a spreadsheet to determine whether or not they should be let go, and that's only to save their own jobs. They are the ones that have no empathy whatsoever. Consider the maiden voyage of the Titanic, for example. To the management, the passengers' lives were mere abstractions, which is why they decided to cut costs of additional lifeboats. Although additional lifeboats would not have prevented the Titanic from sinking whatsoever, this kind of callous decision-making contributed to many unnecessary deaths. And the cause of lacking empathy is what creates such a negative environment in the jobs, extremely high turnover rates, and lack of production numbers that actually does happen. Another example before I close, I was working with the company Haynes Geo Components. They brought me on board in search of a warehouse manager. The role included a plethora of duties, yet they literally tried to offer me only $15 an hour. As a warehouse manager, the minimum per year for that title in Arizona is $37,000 annually. That's about $20 an hour. I spoke with a branch manager explaining that I have a family and $15 an hour is simply and clearly not enough to provide for myself nor my family. He told me that he understood, and he asked me how much I was looking to make. I told him my number was $48,000 per year. He told me that there was no way that the company would pay that out to me, even though they considered me to be well qualified and equipped for this position. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about a $2 billion company that's owned by a $6 billion company, and they had just landed another $2 million per month contract. Guys, the warehouse only included myself, another warehouse associate, and a driver. There was no way I couldn't be paid $25 an hour, even though I'm worth well beyond that much. So with that fact, and also the fact of the driver who was recently promoted from the warehouse training me lacked leadership. This guy was a Hispanic with no GED nor a high school diploma. He'd been with the company for 11 years, so that's all he pretty much had. He showed me the ways of the system and warehouse, but I guess they didn't expect me to learn it all within 3 days. I was told 6 months to a year before I got everything down. In 3 days, guys, I had it all. This man didn't even care about my well-being within the company, especially after he saw how quickly I gained the knowledge. He literally started cussing at me and disrespecting me, talking to me recklessly. I ended up talking with him twice, letting him know that I will not tolerate disrespect in any way from anyone. And basically, he was just intimidated by my work ethic because, like I said, being that he had no education at all, and this is all that he had, he was highly intimidated by somebody coming in brand new, learning the system within 3 days, and just giving respect to him. And the thing that I learned is to always show respect to leadership, and that's how you become a great leader. So guys, the result of that was they ended up letting me go. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a result of starting up or standing up for yourself in these jobs that lack leadership. This is why I have begun to step out on faith with my own podcast. Now, of course, I still work to provide for my family, but with committed dedication and persistence, I will be able to take this podcast to a whole new level to service others and truly pursue my own passion. I want this lesson on leadership to stick with you all. Learn the ways of a true leader and learn from these examples. If you all have any example that you would like to share, please leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the UMP, and be sure to hit the notification bell to be notified of our new podcast being uploaded every Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember that prosperity is within us. I'm your host, Chris Matthews, and I hope that you all will be joining me for part 5 on leadership next Monday, and I'll see you next time.